East Atlanta just dangerous. When I go there, it just make me change. If I'm in Atlanta and I have an episode, I go straight to my block because I know that block like the back of my hand. It's too familiar for me. Sometimes something too familiar for you, you got to get away from that because it's too much comfort there. It ain't no growth in comfort. I need to be where like I'm held accountable. You can get held accountable. If I go to East Atlanta, lean coming, weed coming. All I gotta do is just stand on the block.
The man built an empire on the streets of East Atlanta, and those same streets just told him he's not welcome anymore. Gucci Mane, one of the most recognizable names to ever come out of Zone 6, pulled up to his own neighborhood and got turned away. Not by police, not by a rival, by the people who knew him when he was nobody, the people who watched him become somebody. The same community that gave him everything. And the reason it happened cuts deeper than most people are willing to say out loud. Zone 6 isn't just a neighborhood. For anyone who understands Atlanta rap, it's sacred ground, the birthplace of trap music as the world knows it. When Gucci Mane stepped onto that stage in 2005 with Trap House, he wasn't just dropping an album, he was laying the foundation for an entire sonic movement that would reshape hip-hop globally. The aesthetic, the cadence, the street codes embedded in every bar, all of it came from East Atlanta. Zone 6 didn't just raise Gucci Mane, it made him what he is. And that's exactly what makes this ban hit the way it does. You don't get exiled from the place that made you over small things. When the streets deliver that kind of verdict, it means something happened that cannot be overlooked. That something connects directly to Pooh Shiesty. Pooh was one of the most promising artists on Gucci's 10717 Records roster, a Memphis rapper with undeniable energy, real bars, and the kind of street credibility that money can't manufacture. Gucci signed him, invested in him, put him on a major platform when he was barely 20. On the surface, it looked like everything right about the music industry. An OG recognizing talent and giving a young artist the infrastructure to blow. Then in 2021, federal charges came down on Pooh Shiesty and several members of his crew, the Cho Gang, stemming from a carjacking and robbery case out of Florida. Federal charges operate on a completely different level from state charges. Mandatory minimums, codefendant pressure, prosecutors who will work every angle of every relationship until somebody says something. And when that machinery started grinding, Gucci Mane's names started appearing in conversations that had nothing to do with music. Multiple people with direct knowledge of the situation have said Gucci cooperated with federal authorities in ways that directly impacted Pooh Shiesty's case and the cases of others connected to his crew. In legal language, that cooperation can take many forms. In street language, in the culture that Gucci Mane built his entire career on top of, there is exactly one word for it: snitching. The weight of that accusation against someone of Gucci's stature is hard to overstate. His whole brand was untouchability, real Atlanta streets, the code above everything. That's what people believed about him for 2 decades. The allegation, backed by what came out in legal proceedings and confirmed by people close to the situation, is that when federal pressure landed on people from his own label, his own ecosystems, he made a choice that broke the most fundamental rule of that world. Here's where the irony gets loud. Gucci Mane was not a passive figure in his prime. This was a man who moved through those streets doing things that affected real people. People who got robbed. People who caught stray consequences from situations he was involved in. None of them called the feds. They took their losses. They handled things the street way. The code protected Gucci when he was the one causing damage. Those same people, or people cut from the same cloth, are now watching federal charges grind through their crews. And the man who benefited most from their silence when tables were turned allegedly didn't extend the same courtesy back. Streets remember every robbery, every violation, every person who bled and stayed quiet, and they remember who talked when the feds showed up. That's the foundation of the ban. When Gucci was spotted moving through East Atlanta for an event, personal business, whatever the case, it was clear immediately he wasn't welcome. No dramatic confrontation, no announcement, just the energy. Videos spread. The conversation moved fast. One of the most untouchable figures Zone 6 ever produced couldn't even pass through his own neighborhood without the atmosphere telling him to leave. That's how exile works in the streets. No formal vote, no meeting, no statement. It's in the silence of people who used to ride for you. It's in the absence of anyone vouching for your presence. For someone who grew up in that world and reads those signals as naturally as breathing, that treatment is as loud as any diss track ever dropped. There's a business dimension to this that deserves attention too. 1017 Records was built entirely on the concept of Gucci discovering and elevating street talent. Pooh Shiesty was supposed to be the proof of concept for the next generation of that vision. A Memphis artist with undeniable buzz getting the platform and resources to become a star. The idea that the relationship between that artist and his label boss played out inside a federal case, with allegations that the boss's cooperation made things harder for the artist, that's a fundamental collapse of trust. For any artist considering signing to 1017 or building with Gucci in any capacity, this situation raises a question that doesn't have a comfortable answer. What is that relationship worth when real pressure arrives? Some people will argue Gucci made the smart move, that with a wife, a child, legitimate businesses worth protecting, and federal consequences on the table, the calculation is different, that the codes of the street don't apply the same way when you've actually built something real to lose. That argument has logic to it, and people who make it aren't wrong to raise it. But here's what it doesn't resolve. When you spend 2 decades building a career on a specific identity, when your art, your brand, and everything your name means in the culture is rooted in being someone who lives by a code, the community that authenticated that story has every right to hold you to it because they let you profit from it. They bought into it. They protected it. They kept your name ringing when you were locked up and couldn't speak for yourself. The community invested in the version of Gucci Mane that lived by the code. And when that version allegedly failed the test, they responded accordingly. Pooh Shiesty and the people connected to his case are living with real consequences right now. Real years. Real legal weight. And sitting somewhere in the chain of events that led to those consequences is a decision Gucci Mane allegedly made. That reality doesn't disappear because someone has a new lifestyle or a cleaned-up public image. In the streets, accountability doesn't come with an expiration date. Gucci Mane's catalog is untouchable. No one can take that from him. Trap House, The State vs. Radric Davis, Woptober, back to the Trap House. 2 decades of output that shaped how rap sounds globally. That legacy is cemented. But legacy and access are 2 different things. And what Zone 6 took from him isn't the catalog. It's the connection, the belonging, the ability to go home. For a man whose entire artistic identity was built on being from that specific place, on those specific streets, that exile is not a minor inconvenience. It is the community revoking the authentication that gave everything else its power. The streets don't forgive quickly. They don't forget. And the people who need to know, they already know. Whether Gucci ever rebuilds that bridge is an open question. What isn't open is where things stand right now. Zone 6 made him, and Zone 6 closed the door. Drop a comment. Do you think Gucci can ever get that relationship back with the streets? Or is this permanent?